Hi, I'm Ben Werner. I lead product marketing at Privado.ai. I'm excited to lead this live demo of our App Auditor product today. I'm here with Patrick Murthey. Go
Hey
ahead.
guys, my name is Patrick Murthey. I lead customer success over here for the Americas at Privado, and then with us too is Muskan. Muskan.
Hey, hi everyone. I'm Muskan. I work as a senior software developer with Privado. Happy to be here.
Thank you both for joining. So, yeah, today we're going to go through the App Auditor. First, we're going to have some slides just to give a little background on the problems it solves and the privacy risks that we're dealing with and how we help our customers. So please do ask questions throughout the session. We will try to answer them as we go. We'll also try to answer any remaining ones at the end. So please put those in the Q&A. This session will be recorded. We will share the slides and the recording with everyone after the session. Yeah, and yeah, we have Musk in here to help answer any questions from a technical side, and then yeah, Patrick will be able to give the customer's perspective. All right, so getting started. Yeah, I just did the agenda there. So yeah, but I want to get first started with the privacy enforcement we've seen with mobile apps. It's really ramped up in the past really last 18 months, I would say. And that's why we built this product to help companies identify privacy risks in their mobile apps. So there's been a real uptick in VPPA lawsuits and also fairly large settlements. And those span websites, mobile apps, connected TV apps. Most recently, there's one with Formula One settled for 5.5 million for sharing video viewing data with third parties that included PII without the viewer's consent across their website and mobile app and other platforms. Looking at the latest law from Washington State, the My Health My Data Act, the first lawsuit was filed against Amazon in February of this year regarding how Amazon Ads SDK collects personal health and location data without proper consent. The first uh, lawsuit for the Texas privacy law was also filed this year against Allstate. Uh, it was also due to their third-party SDK that was collecting sensitive personal data without proper consent. Last year, we had a major lawsuit against Twilio, which owns the Segment CDP, and their SDK was gathering a lot of data from a lot of different apps, and it was the focus of a major lawsuit. We had the first CCPA lawsuit last year for a mobile app sharing personal data without proper consent against Tilting Point for their SpongeBob app. And then the FTC has also made several lawsuits against companies for sharing personal data. This one last year, Cerebral shared personal health data without proper consent in violation of their own privacy policy that they posted publicly. So there's a lot of focus on mobile apps now. As websites have been more focused over the last 5 years, but we expect this enforcement to increase. Most recently, we've had a lot of uptick with CCPA enforcement with Honda, Todd Snyder, and Healthline all in the past 6 months. Healthline had the largest fine last month. These were all due to non-compliant data sharing on websites, but it's just to remind everyone that the same rules apply to mobile apps, and we would expect additional enforcements to come down for mobile apps as well. So the top risks that we've seen in ones that have been in these cases, number one, no option to opt out at all. So that was an issue on some of the previous lawsuits. So there's no way to opt out of data sharing, no banner, no way to go in and find a do not sell or share link. Consent compliance, so someone does opt out, but personal data is still shared with advertising third parties. In the Healthline case, they were also called out for sharing personal data with advertising third parties, with ones they did not have a contract with. Sensitive data sharing, that is the biggest risk I would say for mobile apps. So health data, location data, children's data. Video viewing data is in that category because of the VPPA Act. And then the difficulty of managing and maintaining compliance across geographies. So if you have apps in different countries, there could be different versions of apps. There's different restrictions in each jurisdiction. So maintaining those across different geographies, it can be fairly difficult. So we used our app auditor product to scan the top 100 apps in the US, and we found that all of them shared some form of PII with third parties, and 83% shared some type of sensitive location data, 71% shared financial health or children's data. So there's a lot of risk out there for mobile apps. And then we found that 58% are sharing personal data with advertising third parties. So just a quick overview of our App Auditor product that Patrick will demo in a second. So here you can see on the right, you upload an app file that you can get for Android. Those are on the internet, but you get them from your team. It's just the app file that goes in the App Store. And you're able to monitor all third-party activity, track permissions, SDKs, data flow, detect any non-compliant data sharing, so some of the risks we just talked about, and you're able to ensure that the CMPs are complying with all requirements. All right, Patrick, I'll hand it over to you.
Thanks, Ben. Thanks for kind of teeing up everything we got going over here. Give me 1 second to share my screen. Ooh. Awesome. Can you guys see that okay? Awesome. So in here, what I've pulled up is a mobile app test that we have already completed from a demo app that we took. And so what you can see here is when you upload the mobile app, what we're doing today is there's a plethora of scenarios, kind of infinite scenarios that you could possibly click through on your mobile apps, whether that's a game, a food app, search app for medical information or medical supplies or what have you. There's certain scenarios that you've built your app for. So what our teams do, seeing as testing every scenario is pretty difficult, what we're doing is being able to emulate a user's journey via the mobile app phone. And what we do is we load the mobile app, which we'll get to in a second, and really emulate whatever scenario you have. So teams utilize their main use cases for the mobile app. So I'll just stick with ordering food. So moving through the process of opening up the app, clicking around, setting your location, going to checkout, and finally going through that order. Once you hit submit, Privado will process those results. It'll collect everything that occurred during that scenario and give you the output of the third parties and data elements. And then just like everything that we have in Privado, we operate on our guardrails, which are the policies that we create within Privado. And so depending on what style test you're searching for, you can run a variety of tests and get the results back to kind of understand if there's risk. If we do have a CMP and we're doing reject, is there anything still firing? For US stateside opt-out, is anything still firing? Is there any sensitive sharing going on that we want to limit or reduce our risk on? But the plethora of mobile apps out there today don't even have CMP processes. To the best of their ability, most have, do you want to track location pop-up, as that's a requirement for a lot of the app stores now. But a lot of teams are still getting to the point where they're setting these CMPs. First, we targeted on the DSRs and the website, and now we're getting the mobile app. So just like Ben said, we expect more fines to come in this direction, just as they have for website, especially stateside, now that regulators are getting some more bolstering and have some more bandwidth and team members to actually go out and find folk. So within Privado, what we've done here is a couple of tests. So we've done a reject test from the UK position. We've done an opt-out test from the California position. And then within here, you could see some sensitive data sharing. So within here, what we did is we just ran it a standard test. This application that we had did have a banner. So what we did is when the banner loaded after we log in, we reject that banner. And then we see after we hit submit, what all third parties were still firing in that position. So after we reject the banner in this mobile app, you can see there's a plethora of different network calls that occurred when they shouldn't be, especially from the UK position, a little heavy hitting compared to the US. So in here, just as Twitter example, we have some rules applied. We can see what test we did, when the test was ran, and then we give some understanding of why we did this check, what it entails, the control that was applied. So rejecting the network calls after consent's denied, and then guidance for what you should do. So we have the network calls here where you can get some additional details. We give you the header, query parameters, and some other details around what was collected. Also standard for Privado, we have the integrations to Jira and then status updates as you get moving with various teams here. So UK perspective rejecting, California perspective opt out, and you can see there's a difference just like Ben was stating. Some apps have more based on what region they're in. So different app versions kind of style based on regionality. So different functionality as well for opt out potentially. And we're seeing less of an issue fire after a US individual would opt out from California. So giving you baseline checks if you do have a CMP. Also calling out any sharing. So I think on this one, it'll be course data. Oh, no, sorry. Medical and illness information getting sent to an API, and then some video data sharing. So you can think back to the Blockbuster days when we were all running movies. Blockbuster was selling like movie titles to advertisers, if you will, and not having our consent for doing so. So it's kind of an older relic in the privacy world that's being resurfaced as more fines are happening through the VPPA. But in here, like I said, a lot of teams don't have a CMP setup. So what a lot of my teams will do is run an accept all test or a custom test that we can run through Privado. And what that does is they'll run their main scenario, like that checkout scenario I gave, or maybe a search function. And then through that, once they submit, they'll have a list of their third parties and data elements through that specific scenario. We'll also capture the permissions and SDKs regardless of scenario that you run, because those are more statically implemented into the mobile app solutions. So once we do the scan and submit, we'll have a full list of permissions and SDKs, which I'll get to in a second. But really what we're focused on is those third parties, those data flows with the data elements. So after running that accept all test, it kind of gives a short list for teams on what they could configure in the CMP once they're ready to do so. So it's really helpful no matter what stage you're at to really get going in here. Have the export functions as well, add new tests as you're going. But in here, you could see a plethora of third parties, categories just based on our directory, and we can always edit the third party category under the inventory page. We got some hosting locations. As you're probably familiar if you joined our previous webinars or a part of Privado today, cross-border flags. If we're doing a test, say in the UK, and we see that there's a headquarter location in the US, we'll flag that as a potential EEA transfer. Goes both ways too. So you can get the little flag callouts. Consent actions, same across the board for our other modules as well. In which test were these things active? So we can see when we did the opt-out test, we had some Yahoo items that were firing. When we did the reject test, we didn't have Yahoo firing. Twitter only fired in the EU or in the UK for this example. And so if I want to, I can go in and click in and see exactly what data elements a third party is collecting. So you could see here, Twitter is collecting user ID and social media. If we wanted to go into the nitty gritty, we can see again the headers, query parameters, and data elements associated to what we surfaced. So this is from the third party perspective. If you want to see what's going on, get a source of truth for all the third parties in your ecosystem for that scenario. So it gives you a clear output. And then over on the data element side, this view I personally like. We can see everything that's getting collected as far as PII and SPI, sensitive personal data, and just straight up personal data. But in here, you could see we have the data elements, category, sensitivity. Do want to note sensitivity can be adjusted through work with your CSM, such as myself, where if, say, for whatever reason, browsing history is of a high quotient to you and email is of a low, we can adjust those things. And if there's anything high, we can flag that so that you get the SPI call out for that policy too. But within here, same kind of story. So you can see account ID shared across the ether, the most commonly shared variable through an app in most every case. You can see the other data flows that we have going here. Excuse me. So in here, if I pick on device identifier, for example's sake, we'll be able to splice out all the third parties. So instead of it being all the data elements, it's the inverse. So we can see the device identifier is going to a plethora of our third parties. Within here, we give you the tagged variable and the value associated third party URL and where the hosting location is. So if you really need to do a deep dive, you have the how to make the pudding or how to build the sausage or whatever have you. So if you really need to do a deep dive, it has all those connections and the variables for you. So really a deep dive insight for that specific scenario. Now with that, the third party and data elements, these are based on that opt out and the reject scenario that Ben and I tested ahead of time. What we were able to collect too, in addition to that, was the permissions on the phone. So permissions come out in this kind of codish language. Our AI digests it into human English. So if you're like me and our layman's, you can utilize the tool without necessarily having to go to Muscon to get some understanding as to what is happening here. So it gives you all the controls. We have 36 on this mobile app, for example, and you can get an idea there. Same thing goes for SDKs. So again, these are more statically collected. Doesn't matter what the dynamic scenario we're running is. And so within here, we'll be working on parenting this. Right now, you can see 4,730 SDKs. This includes the sub SDKs as well. So not just for each provider. But the reason we do this is to give you a clear depiction. It's really helpful for privacy, really helpful for security, and gives you a clear understanding. It'll make more sense. I'll flip to the category so you can see all the different filters we have in here. Hot button ticket with the DOJ order recently. Third party understanding is definitely in top of mind for a lot of leadership teams, especially with the threat of jail time if we're sending to the no-no locations. So within here, you can see we have Lottie a few times. Again, mobile app is in alpha stage. We'll be progressing this over very rapidly, but we'll be rolling this up. So we won't see Lottie a bunch of times. We'll see one Lottie with a summary number like 52. If there are 52 total SDKs through it, we can see each one is a different utilization. So we're listing all of them so you guys have a clear depiction and source of truth of what's going on your mobile app, regardless of scenario. So this has been really helpful for a lot of teams, even security overlap of just getting a true depiction of what's going on with the SDK. So we're no longer in the time of being like, hey, I don't know what's going on. We use Google for the search engine. I don't know what else it's doing. Now we can have those insights a little bit more clearly. So again, we have the overview issues where we can really check on various scenarios, the insights on the third parties and data elements, depending on what scenario you use or run through during the test. You can run a multitude of tests. And then the permissions and SDKs get collected as you submit the test and show the full list of permissions and SDKs for you. I didn't click on issues. Issues will be a summarization of all of the callouts if we were running a reject, an opt-out, a no action. So you can dig in with your teams and do remediation. And then we have the policy ID. So if you want to do attack sensitive sharing first versus opt-in compliance or opt-out compliance, you can do so. Yeah, that's a general overview of our mobile app solution today. I'll pass it back over to Ben really quick to start moving on to the next phase.
Sure. Thank you, Patrick, for going through the results of that test app and all the different issues and data visibility you can get from the test. So now I'm going to step back and show how the tests are made. So you first start with the app file we talked about. So we can upload an iOS app file, an Android app file. You type the name here. Once you do that, you go into test. I already have a test set up. So this test is for the UK for this news app called The Sun, and we're testing the reject situation. So it asks me for notifications. I'm going to allow, it doesn't matter either way. I get this nice banner that comes up with the Sun app. Oh, and then disappear. Oh, it's back. So I want to go to cookie settings. Let's see if it loads for me here. Yes, there we go. I want to reject all. So now I've rejected all, and then I can go through and interact with the app to see, what data is being sent based on anything that I look at. Um, I can click into an article, right? So if there's, for example, in the Healthline media case, people were looking at articles regarding health conditions, and then those article names and URLs are being sent to advertising third parties. So something similar could happen in an app like this. They also have a video section, so you could go in here and watch a video. Um, there's weird videos they have on here about celebrities and whatnot. But yeah, so if you click a video, then you'd see if any video sharing data is sent based on the test. So then once you've done whatever activity you want to do, you would click submit test. And then it just takes a few minutes to load. So the part you do before the test is here. And this is where you select the different actions you want to test for. Then you go and do the action, right? If it's a e-commerce app, you probably want to buy something, if you might want to sign up, and then you'll see what data flows are going to happen based on that activity. And here are the different locations you can scan for the different regulations.
Yeah, and we're always constantly building the location. So if there's something that we don't have today, we'll gladly create it for you. We're just going based on client feedback for our regions there. But again, like Ben said, a lot of our teams are using the mobile app for their main scenarios, or say we build a new function tomorrow and we want to test to make sure that in our new functions on the mobile app that we are indeed honoring privacy, we can run through those. So really enabling teams to capture what they think they know and ensure that all of the unknown unknowns are in front of them so that if they do have to go in front of regulators or if they do have to set up the CMP, they're aware and can take action where needed. Where before we were kind of flying a little blind because we didn't have any ability to scan a tool from this kind of perspective. And it was really up to the dev teams to give a clear description of what was going on. Obviously, devs are great at what they do, building functionality, features, and code. They're not privacy experts. So that's a big gap there. And then they're also not in control of the SDKs. They'll use the SDKs for a software development kit from a third party that they need for a certain function, but they might not be aware that there's other functionality that gets triggered dynamically. So with Privado, we have our code scanning tool. You can still scan mobile apps to get the static representation. I consider that like the sleeping giant, if you will, the blueprints. And then the mobile app scan is the dynamic piece from the user experience, and it wakes up the sleeping giant, if you will, when the user's interacting, and we see other things get triggered. So, like Ben was saying, if someone does a search function and they're looking up um, medicine or food or titles of shows or movies, and those things get passed on to advertisers. They aggregate your collections, and now they can market to you on things that are maybe more sensitive. Even especially today with all of the different political things coming to light, trying to reduce those trackers, trying to reduce those aggregations so teams feel or people feel more protected and confident and trust the various applications that they're using. Um, I'm loading another test in the mobile app, but it's not finished yet. It takes a couple minutes to get loaded up. But with that, Ben, would you want to start looking at some of the Q&A if there is anything going in?
Yes, we just got another question. Is there any way to automate the clickstream once it's done once so I can check a new version behaves the same as the old version? Or
I can take that one. So
okay.
that's to come. Right now we're in alpha, so it's a little clunky right now, I'll be honest. But what we're doing is we're getting to that point. So in the next couple months here, we'll be having various API feeds, even being able to use, say, a URL for the APKs because those are more open. And then we'll have it so you upload your app, and then we have versions just come in as they go, and you can set those schedulers. And then what we'll get to is kind of similar to what you've experienced for website. We record that test just like you were asking. We have the video available today for the APKs, so you can actually prove that to your other team members of what you tested. But we'll basically be getting to the point where you set that and kind of forget that, and we'll just set up a scan cadence to run through that scenario um, at whatever, weekly, monthly, what have you, so that you can get the understanding. And we're also developing those drift policies. So the delta version 1, version 2. We didn't have gender before. We didn't have Facebook before. Now we do. Those are all to come. So that's a great question.
Yeah, one thing to add is you once you do the test, you can download the video of the test so you can send it to someone else. Say this is the exact clicks I did to get these results. You know, identified these risks. You know, I clicked the video, it's sent the video viewing data with the PII to Facebook.
Yep.
Sure. So we had another question. How accurate are the tests? What percentage of data is missed by the platform?
I haven't really had anyone report data was missing from the platform yet, so pretty high confidence rating at this point. Yeah, everyone that's used it has not really called out any false positive differential at this point from my client side.
Yeah, I don't know if we have any accuracy issues. You know, it's scanning exactly what, and you can see the evidence for everything that's in there, showing that, you know, this SDK package is firing and these data points are sharing. I mean, I don't know, Muskan, do you have any comments on that question?
Yeah, it should capture each and every network call that is going through it. So we should have like rarely any misses that should happen there.
Yeah, because it's basically we're hitting record and then we're capturing every single call that's happening. Think of it as like man in the middle. We're in there tethering between, seeing all the network calls so that we can understand and digest that in human English for us and in an organized fashion. That's a great question.
All right, I'm gonna go and share another test. So we showed the UK version of the Sun app. So we had the banner pop up, you know, which is more required in the UK. So there's a lot more restrictions there. So here I've run the same situation, but so opt out for California. So same app will have, you know, a different experience. So I go into settings and I have to opt out a little differently. If I can find it. Well, typically you'd find a, you know, a do not sell or share option, and then you'd opt out this way. Looks like this app doesn't have it, but either way, you'd have a different experience for different apps. You run that test, and same thing applies. You know, depending on
I
how.
can share real quick. I have one going on my end if you
Yeah,
want to.
see if yours is showing that do not sell or share.
So I took the same step as Ben, did a different location, but you could see here, do not sell or share in the settings. So I can go ahead, click here, waiting to load Privacy Manager, and then we can run through that process here. So going in, it's a little less apparent stateside. Not going to get into legalese, but you can look at the Honda lawsuit. Um, you can just make some educated guesses as to what a good function would be, speak with your legal teams. But in here, you know, we still have the do not shall share. Sometimes it's buried in the settings a little bit. We can go through just similarly as Ben was doing, look at various items. You can see as I'm clicking, there's a little circle-y thingy going on for my indicator. That's so on the recording output, you can see actually what your team member was doing. So as you go around, click on videos, watch different videos. And this is just all about various celebrities, so that's why we're getting a little funky news bits on here. But once you're done, you can submit the test. If, say, I clicked wrong and I went into something I didn't actually want to get recorded, you can come up here and restart the test. So pretty helpful, pretty easy. If we have really small text, we have the zoom in. We had one team member or one client team member group where there's a lot of writing in one of the apps. And so to be able to see it, we added some zoom in features. You have your standard phone features at the bottom as well that I just wanted to show you guys. But again, submit the test. Once you submit the test, it'll take a few minutes to process. You'll see we got the test going here, opt out. And then over here in the mobile app status, we'll be able to see the process going. It looks like mine just is a little lagged here, but we'll see the processing happen. And once it's complete, we'll have the results. But yeah, that's really kind of the simplicity of it is just load the app phone file, whether it's an APK for Android or an IPA for iOS, Apple. Once it gets uploaded, you'll get a nice little notification. I even have it in my upper corner here once I started the test. After we power on the virtual machine, get everything loaded for you, it'll load the phone just as you have it in your hand. You'll go through the scenario just as you would as a user, record that, submit it, and then you'll have the results you need.
Thank you, Patrick. We've got
Wow.
a few more questions here. So one was, can you get the recording for iOS and Android? The answer is yes. The platform works the same for both types of phones. Uh, Another question, what clients do you have in Europe at the moment? Banks. So we have several clients in Europe. We can't name, all of our clients, but yeah, on our website, we work with the Zoom Info team over in the UK. We work with Here Technologies. They're in the UK as well.
There's a plethora of
Yeah,
other ones. We're just, as you could probably tell, under NDA for a lot of things because it's privacy. So teams want um, their own privacy when it comes to that. But yeah, it's for wide variety of industries. Like I was speaking in the beginning, video games, food apps, ordering apps, news apps,
yep.
um,
Banks,
any
financial companies. Yeah,
financial apps, like any kind of possible, whatever you have on your phone, we're probably working with someone in that same realm. So,
France as well.
yeah,
Is there a feature to send automatic email alerts with lists of third-party vendors which are violating user consent for different consent categories?
not yet, but that would be definitely something we'll take up, similar to what we have in the website scanner. We'll be mirroring that pretty much across the board. On our roadmap is a lot of alerting and notification and reporting for this H2, so through the rest of the year. And so those things will definitely be getting added in. Think of it, we're in alpha right now, so we're going to be putting the lipstick on the pig, if you will.
Nice analogy. Okay. Any other questions before we start wrapping up? Uh, this has been great to get the engagement from everybody. All right. If not, I will plug our next webinars really quick. We have got a few upcoming, uh, two in the next 2 weeks. Let me pull up the slide here. So next week we have a session on why CMPs need continual privacy risk monitoring. So like we talked about with mobile apps, websites, right, have CMPs for the most part implemented, but the CMPs are not designed to verify compliance, check to see if cookies or data is shared when it should not be shared. So we're bringing in Nick Fuller, the CEO of Fuller Consulting, who works with a lot of companies on how to address issues with CMPs and run audits. Darren Abernathy from Greenberg and Troy Law Firm will be there to talk about what he's seen from the legal aspect working with clients who've dealt with lawsuits regarding website privacy. The week after, so these are the next 2 Thursdays at the same time, we've got a webinar on the newest U.S. privacy laws. So Tennessee and Maryland, their laws went into effect last month. So enforcement is live. And in October, Maryland's privacy law will then go into effect. So we've got Jordan Francis from the Future of Privacy Forum and Samuel Kane from law firm Wilmer Hale to talk through all the new requirements, what companies should be worried about from an enforcement perspective, how they can update their privacy program and practices to make sure uh, they're reducing their risk and complying with these new requirements. And then the last Thursday of September, we'll be previewing our new release of AI agents for privacy. So these are some the latest uh, AI agent technology we're applying to privacy. So have the first agents for privacy teams to automate their assessments, data mapping, PIAs, DPIAs, ROPAs. So taking away a lot of the grunt work, reading through documentation and all the data sources that Privado scans, and then automating those outputs to save a lot of time, improve accuracy, and so on. So excited for these webinars coming up. You can check them out on our website. We'll be sending out emails about these as well.
Yeah, I'm really excited for the agentic assessments. Or agentics in general. The AI agents will basically be, think chat GPT style chat, and you can kind of tell it to do things. So we'll get there. Pretty exciting for that to really help alleviate a lot of the, like Ben said, manual grunt work. I think that was a really good term.
We did get another question. Yeah, we'll send out links to these webinars. So, can we configure rules for different consent categories with conditions of which vendors fire and which should not fire for each consent category and flag it with status of pass or fail?
So right now, what we can do is we can create custom policies. So if a custom rule would be like a go, no go kind of thing, then you would get an issue flag on when it was doing that no go kind of item. So if you say you can have precise location, but that can only be sent to Google Maps after a user has accepted, and we're seeing that when a user has opted out or rejected per se, trigger an issue flag there kind of thing. Does that answer your question? Awesome. Great question. Very good question. Yes, we are able to customize policies. That's what we do very heavily. We're actually making it so that hopefully by the end of this next H2, you'd be able to make your own policies without interacting with us. But really, we do enjoy when teams do bring up about new needs or use cases. If they fit globally, we'll apply that so that everyone can take advantage. That's how a lot of our policies do get created, is based on feedback and need. And because we work with a plethora of industries, we have a pretty nice variety as we get going. So for like code scanning and website, we have a lot of kind of previously not out of the box, but now kind of, if you need it, pretty quick to set it up because of so much feedback.
Thanks, Patrick. So yeah, this wraps up our mobile app privacy series. So this is part 3 today. So we did our first session a few weeks ago. We had Daniel uh, Goldberg from FKKS law firm talking about all the latest privacy legal developments regarding mobile apps that also apply to websites. We had a session a couple weeks ago focused on remediation programs that companies are applying and how they can build up the practices and processes to ensure their apps are compliant. And today we wrapped up with our demo. So please do check out the other recordings. We'll send those out as well. And yeah, one more thing to highlight is the September 4th webinar on the new U.S. state privacy laws that does qualify for a IAPP uh, CPE credit. So it's one thing to note. But otherwise, yeah, thank you so much for your attendance and engagement today. Thank you, Patrick, for walking us through everything in the app in the mobile app scanning and all the issues. Thanks, Muskin, for providing the perspective from building this product and making it what it is. So thanks again, everyone, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Steve. See you guys. Thanks, Ben.
Bye.